It feels to me that the progress we've seen over the past 10 years with FDA has been quite remarkable, right? It's not that it's perfect every time, but it's quite predictable. You know when you start what the process is going to be in order to get the outcome that you hope for. It does feel like CMS still lags behind a little bit, not because of anything they're necessarily doing wrong, but they've not quite embraced that same process improvement mindset and the collaboration that we've seen at FDA. Anand, you sat in both of those agencies. Talk from at least your perspective, the difference between FDA culture, CMS culture, and sort of what we can look for coming out of CMS in the coming year or two.
Yes, Scott. These are both public health agencies, but they're very different species. The Food and Drug Administration fundamentally is a scientific organization. And I think that user fees have gone a long way in terms of raising a level of accountability around performance objectives. User fees have allowed for unprecedented hiring at the agency. Salaries are different between the two agencies, and at FDA you're able to bring in a medical and a scientific staff that has alternatives in the private sector, but they choose a career of public service because the incentives have been set, appropriately, through a number of mechanisms. On the flip side, I think at CMS and with all respect to my colleagues there at the agency, it's under-resourced.
Yeah.
And especially the sections of the agency that deal with medical innovation, that look at the review of medical products. I think the last time I looked at the numbers, a few months ago, CDRH, for example, is 2,000 professional staff, and the coverage group at CMS is closer to 25.
Wow.
So there's a bottleneck, right? And there's a funnel as a medical product, goes from FDA marketing authorization. For those that are subject to some sort of coverage determination, you're going to bump up against a bottleneck related to professional staff, and there just aren't enough there.
Yeah, it's a great point. Policy can only do so much if you don't have the right people in place to help accelerate the policy that you put in place, right? And I'll shift to policy for a minute as well and maybe get both of your thoughts on it. Earlier this year, CMS issued a new rule called the Medicare Coverage of Innovative Therapies regulation, which was an indication that they were moving in the right direction, right? And since then, it appears that they pulled that back and they're thinking about it differently, maybe not about it at all. We're not sure yet. Can you give us a sense from your perspective as what do you think the change in mindset was, and what do you see coming out of CMS maybe later this fall on this issue?
So I had a pretty unique vantage in this, in that I was at CMS during the genesis of the rule and as it was developed, and CMS professional staff worked painstakingly with industry, with patient groups, with a variety of external stakeholders, also internally. And when I was at FDA, there was fairly widespread support of MCIT, just the way that it was worded. You have FDA career staff who go through these adjudications regarding granting a breakthrough designation or not, and then ultimately whether that breakthrough designated device gets a marketing authorization, and then you bump up against a wall. And so the rule was designed to create a glide path for very select medical products to come to market. I was reading through the proposed rule around the repeal, here, and there was some language that suggested a conflicting of authorities between the two agencies, and I think the concern regarding whether FDA authority here usurps CMS, it's a little bit unfounded. The rule was written in a manner that it only for a very limited subset of medical products, where they would get a glide path, to market.
Right.
So I'm not sure why the rule was repealed or why that proposal is on the table now. This had gone through notice and comment rulemaking, was developed by CMS professional staff, had a wide degree of support through the public comment period, and was set for release, in January, and then subsequently bumped. So it remains to be seen kind of what the alternative is.
Okay.